Today, I'm going to be replacing a Lambda probe on my 2008 Smart Fortwo 451. So today I'm going to be replacing the Lambda probe, otherwise known as the oxygen sensor. It's the number 2, which is the one after the catalytic converter, and it can be located right here. This has been soaking for quite a while now. It does, however, still seem incredibly tight. I have got a special socket with a cutout for the wire, which I'm going to use. I need to do that from underneath due to angles, but the vehicle is supported on axle stands, so it's safe to go under. This is the tool in question, so it's a 22mm deep socket, 1/2-inch drive with this cutout here for the wire. Just about 8 quid, 10 quid on eBay, cheap as chips. So first things first, I'm going to unplug this oxygen sensor, Lambda probe. Bit of a handful to do, but it's disconnected. Next, I've placed the socket over the Lambda probe, and then access with the breaker bar will be from underneath. So we've got the breaker bar and the socket on the oxygen sensor. Let's see if we can free this off. The Lambda probe is in there incredibly tight. It's so tight that it's proving impossible to shift. This isn't helped by the fact that this exhaust silencer is mounted on rubber, so there's no real holding of the silencer in place to get a good purchase on it. So I'm removing these bolts and I'm going to take the silencer off the car. Now fortunately I've soaked these bolts and they are coming undone quite easily. I will likely have to replace these bolts, however, as they have seen better days. It's important to follow this wiring loom from the number 1 Lambda probe and to disconnect that from its connector block, because that comes away with the silencer. And now this is disconnected, it is just a case of taking the exhaust silencer off its mounting rubbers, which is made easier by applying WD-40 to them. That one is off, just the other side. And the silencer is off the car. It's a heavy silencer, as silencers go. I've always felt this car sounded a little bit too noisy in terms of its exhaust, especially when cold. And looking at this here, I'm concerned that this pipe may actually have fractured underneath this heat shield. So I'm going to remove this as well. This is a classic example of what starts out as being one job, progresses into being way more. Unfortunately, these bolts are coming undone. Had these snapped in the turbo, we'd have been in a whole world of pain. So here we go. We've gone from changing a Lambda probe to removing the entire exhaust system, right the way up to the turbo. Nothing snapped, nothing was seized, apart from the Lambda probe, of course. Now ultimately, I had to get pretty mean with it and cut the top off. The problem with this, with the cutout, is that under extreme loads this does open up slightly, which meant that it was spinning. Standard 22 without the cutout worked just fine. Now let's see if we've got any threads left. And it appears we do. So where are we now? I'm going to go across to the Smart dealership in the week and get new bolts and springs and these new gauze rings, sealing rings that have disintegrated. I'm sure they'd have been a lot fatter than that when they were new. Very little left of them there. I think there was a hell of a lot of movement within this setup, because there is some wear here. It should suggest that this was flopping around all over the place and it's been riding up against the inside of the exit of the turbo. So I need to look into getting hold of a new one of these, because that is quite worn and damaged. Not sure how expensive this is, but I shall find out. Had to get brutal with this in the end, but I got that out. Needed to use a conventional socket as opposed to the one with the cutout, which meant there was flex. The socket was opening up slightly, which was allowing it to spin. So by hacking the top off there, I could just get a regular socket over the top, and it was much snugger fitting, which meant we had better purchase on this. And on the positive, the threads are still okay inside here. So it's not going to be finished today. Now I'm just going to clean the back end of the car, the bits that are now exposed now the panels are off, and make sure that everything's as presentable as it can. And I'm now just really waiting for parts. There'll be a part 2 coming soon. Thank you for watching, and goodbye.